So, what have I learned in 82 years? I just started making a list, and I will probably talk about some of these things in a little more detail. But the first thing I wrote, and I just kind of let these things flow. So the first thing I wrote was that I am only responsible for my own life and actions. It took me a while to learn that because I grew up in an environment where I thought I had to fix everything. I thought it was my job. You know, somebody was not happy. It's my job to make them happy. If there was not a piano player for the Baptist service, it was my job to do it, you know, step in whether I really wanted to or not. So I somehow along the way, I realized that doing that did not make me happy. And so I finally came to understand that I'm only responsible for my life and for my actions. And right away, I knew that I am happy when my actions align with my values. And that another word that I could have used for values is, or in addition, is boundaries. So that I learned that, first of all, it's not my job to fix your problems. And I can do something in alignment with my values and still keep my boundary. So then that led to an understanding, which it took me probably quite a few years to learn. But what I've learned is that my desire to help has often led to enabling the person I'm trying to help. And then they just became dependent on me. So I learned about enabling and the sort of the dangers of it. It doesn't help anybody for us to always be available to say, okay, do this or do that, or give them some kind of instruction. It's more helpful to ask questions, to be curious. What is it you want to achieve? And things like that. And I finally learned to do that because it was wearing me out, to always be the person that people were coming to for some kind of approach to their problem, or even an outright just answer. So all of these three things kind of go together. And it took me a while to understand that. I want to read I'm going to read several poems, but I want to read this one. It's a Thich Nhat Hanh poem, which you may not be familiar with. I think everybody's heard the ones Call Me by My True Names. Actually, that's the name of the book. But this one is called Going in Circles, which is what I kind of found myself doing for a while. He asked the question, "Oh, you who are going in circles, please stop. What are you doing it for? I cannot be without going because I don't know where to go. That's why I go in circles. Oh, you who are going in circles, please stop. But if I stop going, I will stop being. Oh, my friend who is going in circles, you are not one with this crazy business of going in circles. You may enjoy going, but not going in circles. Where can I go? Go where you can find your beloved, where you can find yourself." So finally, I guess I stopped going in circles, but I didn't have this poem to help me. However, it really resonated with me when I found it. So being responsible for my own life and my actions, being happy when I know that I'm in alignment with my values and I'm keeping my boundaries, and also understanding that I can help without enabling, which is probably one of the really hardest lessons for me to learn. So I have also learned to be mostly okay with change. That's still not easy. And I don't know if it's easy for any of us. Change is often brings a better situation. So that kind of change, yeah, that's great. But if the change is a little bit uncomfortable, I have to admit that sometimes it takes me a while to adjust to a change that's a little bit uncomfortable. Another thing that I thought of was all of these pivotal moments in my life that have literally changed my life, kind of put me in a different direction. For instance, one of the first pivotal things was at some point, I began to pull away from the religion that I was brought up in. I was kind of adrift for a while. And so when I married my husband, George, we went to Baytown. And we got involved with a small church where he was leading the choir. And then he got a job with a Methodist church where he was also leading the choir. And I was doing the children's choir. And it was like, too much church, because it wasn't even what we really believed anymore. And so that was pivotal to understand that my beliefs had changed. They weren't really in alignment with these two religious expressions. Not to say that there's anything wrong with it, but it didn't suit me. So we took leave from both of these churches and just started reading things like Alan Watts and Ram Dass, Edgar Casey, all kinds of things, just to get an idea what else would resonate with us, what else would make sense. So that's a pivotal moment in my life because I broke away from the religion and began to explore and find what it was that resonated with me. Another significant event was when I broke my engagement to somebody, and this was before I married George, of course, but I was engaged to a young man who was the youth director at our Baptist church. And I don't remember what occurred that caused me to break the engagement, but I feel sure it has to do something with being in college. And he was not. He had already been to college. So just a new environment for me, and I started seeing things in a new way. And so that changed my life quite a bit because then I'm in college, and that's when I met George, and then we married. So that's a big change in my future. I can't even imagine what my life would be like if I had actually married this young man. And then, I don't know, I would have been a Baptist all my life, I guess. Or I would have been divorced at some point, so that's a really pivotal thing. There are many pivotal moments like that, but the next one I want to talk about was finding the meditation center. That was in 2010, and a friend of mine was helping paint the place at Floyd Road. The first place that we had was on Floyd Road, and they did some renovations all themselves. And so they were painting the meditation hall. And Donna asked me, not this Donna, but another Donna asked me if I wanted to come help them paint. And I said, well, sure. So I went, and she introduced me to T-Sing. And then I heard on kind of through the grapevine of people working there that the person who had been his assistant had left. So he needed a secretary, an assistant, something. So I thought about that. And then the next time I went, which was for a meditation workshop, there was a sign on the outside of the building that said, a personal assistant wanted $1,000 a month. So I was, okay, I could do that. I had retired from teaching, so, you know, why not? So I went in and found him, and I said, I would like to apply for the job. So he started to kind of hem and haw a little bit, and then he said, well, I really can't afford to pay anybody right now. And so, you know, I'm thinking, why did you put a sign on the outside of the building? So I thought, well, okay, what if I just work here for free for 2 weeks? And if I don't like it or you don't like me, that's it. So that's what we did. And after 2 weeks, he came to me and he said, so anyway, so then I started, that was in 2011. And I worked with T-Sing until he passed away. And then I sort of took over his role and running the center, sort of. But anyway, that was pivotal, that working for him. It brought me here to where I am today. Another thing that I've kind of learned is that I can recognize when my ego has taken the driver's seat, which is very helpful. There's a kind of awareness there that's like, okay, let's see you, little ego. I usually do recognize it now. And that causes me to be less critical of myself and of other people, because I also have been sort of inculcated with the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh and the fact that I am not separate from anybody, which is kind of what that talk was about. No separation, we're all one. We read that in that contemplation. I'm one with the oppressors, I'm one with those who are oppressed, and I'm one with the oppressors. So, you know, it's part of the teachings that have become a part of me. And so I find that I'm much more patient and lenient. I guess another pivotal time in my life was when my mother moved in with us a couple of years ago. She is 101.
Wow.
And she's really remarkable because she still gets around in the house even without a walker. She makes her own breakfast. She takes care of her personal needs. The thing that I have to be a little more attentive to is when she orders things on the computer. Yeah, I hear her in there, and when I go in, she's like inches from the monitor, and I'll say, "Okay, what are you doing?" I'm trying to get on Amazon. Anyway, so yeah, you have to pay attention to that sort of things if you're taking care of an elderly person. Another funny story about her. When she sees a call on her phone that's a zip code that she recognizes, like 214-469, she wants to answer it. But I keep telling her, Mom, if you know this person, their name will come up. So don't answer it. She's finally gotten to where she mostly does answer. But there are times when I hear her talking and I go listen at the door, and it's like it's some kind of salesperson, you know. So that's been pivotal. And also it's been inspirational. I mean, she is really teaching me how to age. So I'm less critical and more patient with myself and other people. I know this is not something I've necessarily learned, but I know that music and art and poetry are nourishment for me. And so that leads me to read another poem. This one, I probably should have read it when I was talking about myself as a younger person. But I think he wrote this poem for his daughter, but you can't really tell. He says, to my favorite 17-year-old high school girl. This might have been. Do you realize that you had started building the Parthenon on the day you were born? I'm going to start over again because I left out a word. Do you realize that if you had started building the Parthenon on the day you were born, you would be all done in only one more year? Of course, you wouldn't have done it alone, so never mind. You're fine just as you are. You are loved simply for being yourself. But did you know that at your age, Judy Garland was pulling down $150,000 a picture? Joan of Arc was leading the French army to victory, and Blaise Pascal had cleaned up his room. Oh, no, wait. I mean, he had invented the calculator. Of course, there will be time for all of that later in your life, after you come out of your room and begin to blossom, or at least pick up your socks. For one reason, I kept remembering that Lady Jane Grey was Queen of England when she was only 15. But then she was beheaded, so never mind about her as a role model. A few centuries later, when he was your age, Franz Schubert was doing the dishes for his family, but that did not keep him from composing 2 symphonies, 4 operas, and 2 complete masses as a youngster. But of course, that was in Austria at the height of romantic lyricism, not here in the suburbs of Cleveland. Frankly, who cares if Annie Oakley was a cracked shot at 15, or if Maria Callas debuted at Tosca at 17? We think you are special by just being you, playing with your food, staring into space. By the way, I lied about Schubert doing the dishes, but that doesn't mean he never got out around this. That's Billy Collins, one of my favorites, along with Dick Nine. So music and art and poetry are nourishment for me. Another favorite of mine is Mary Oliver. And this one, let me read 2 of them because I don't know. She writes poems about dogs, and usually they're dogs that she had, and she names them, and then she talks to them, and they talk back. So this is about Percy and books. Percy does not like it when I read a book. He puts his face over the top of it and moans. He rolls his eyes. Sometimes he sneezes. The sun is up, he says, and the wind is down. The tide is out, and the neighbor's dogs are playing. But Percy, I say, ideas, the elegance of language, the insights, the funniness, the beautiful stories that rise and fall and turn into strength or courage. Books, says Percy. I ate one once and it was enough. Let's go. That's kind of, I don't know, I guess I like that because I like to read and I write haiku, but I usually do that when I'm outside sitting in the swing. Because that's where I feel some inspiration. So I understand Percy wanted to get outside. So here's the other one from Mary Oliver. It's called Mornings at Blackwater. For years, every morning I drank from Blackwater Pond. It was flavored with oak leaves and also, no doubt, the feet of ducks. And it always assuaged me from the dry bowl of the very far past. What I want to say is that the past is the past, and the present is what your life is, and you are capable of choosing what that will be, darling citizen. So come to the pond, or the river of your imagination, or the harbor of your longing, and put your lips to the world and live your life. And that's what I'm aspiring to do. So far, I have managed to get 82 years. What I also know is that I am really an introvert, but I love teaching. So somehow that helps me get over the desire to just hide. I would love to hear if any of these things kind of resonated with you, if you would be willing to share with me. So I finished this list, but I probably could have made more things on the list, but I didn't. So it's your time to tell me what have you learned, and is anything you've learned similar to what I've learned?